Here we go live. And hello everyone, welcome to Meshery Build and Release call. Today is November 9th, and this is a specific call of Meshery where we discuss different CI related, build related items which are generally not discussed on a development meeting, which is on Wednesday, which we joined yesterday. And yeah, so today, before moving forward, let's ensure that everybody who's on the call is given a chance to add their names in the attendees list. In case you are joining live on the Zoom, then I'll share the link in the chat, which you can use to add your names. And so while you all add your names, let's give our newcomers an opportunity to discuss, to introduce themselves. So I think Harsh is new on the call. Harsh, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Harsh. I'm a pre-final year grad from India, and I'm currently pursuing computer science and engineering. So for the past 6 months, I've been freelancing and trying to work with Kubernetes related tools, and my most of the work has been around building CI/CD workflows. So I thought this could be a great way to start with Meshery. I actually joined the community around in January, but I didn't understand much. So I'm trying to get back to it. So um, I think getting started with CI would be a better option for me. So yeah, that's it. Nothing else.
Okay. So do you have any experience on GitHub workflows and specifically Bash script and stuff like that,
Yes.
Golang?
Yes, with Golang, I'm pretty new. Trying to build projects, but with the GitHub Actions and and automating workflows. Yes, with Bash, Python, GitHub Actions, and I've tried with Jenkins and Jenkins X2. Working with Tecton and Lighthouse. These are the basic means. Most of my CI work has been with these tools.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining. And next is Akshat. Akshat, are you new on this call? Would you like to introduce yourself? I think there's some technical issue. You can also introduce on the chat. Next, I think is Rudraksh. Rudraksh, are you new on this specific call? Even if you have joined any of the others call, and if you're new on this specific call, that's also an opportunity to introduce yourself so that those who are new on this call, then you can get a chance to let others know about you.
Yeah, hello.
Mhm.
Hello, am I
And
audible? Yeah.
yeah,
Hello, Pranav. Hello, everyone. So I'm Rudraksh. Uh, this is my particularly second call at Meshery. Previously, I tried to contribute, but got into some other work at research internship and other open source work at KD community. So now I'm looking forward to get myself back into Meshery and try to contribute. My tech stack involves Python and Python shell scripting, then CI/CD. Mostly, I have been working with machine learning and data pre-processing and data engineering stuffs. If you got any open issues or something like that, so I would like to contribute and get myself started. I'm also learning Golang these days, getting myself started with contributing to some CNCF projects. That's it.
okay, that sounds good. And what's your favorite color?
Uh, my favorite color is like green color.
Okay, nice.
What about you?
Green like Meshery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. Okay. So I think next, Binyam, would you like to introduce yourself? I think you are also new on this call.
Hello, did somebody mention me?
Yes. Would you like to introduce yourself on the call?
Okay, my name is Dino. I'm a machine learning engineer from Ethiopia.
Okay. Okay, that's good. Thank you for your introduction.
Now, am I audible now?
Yes, you are.
Okay,
Good
yeah.
at you. Yeah.
Yeah. Currently, I'm working in the data security domain. So this is my second call overall for this project, and I've been working in CI/CD since quite a time, and I have experience in Python, Java, and I also know Jenkins, and I'm looking forward. How can I contribute to this project? And this CI/CD is I like it very much. It's very interesting, so I like to work on this.
So have you previously worked on Golang or any GitHub
Yeah,
Actions?
currently, my project is also in Golang, so it uses a combination of Golang, Maven with Java, and some Kubernetes Dockers. So I have a basic understanding of all these things.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining. Okay, so I think we covered everybody who addressed all our old timers. So let's get started rolling with our first standing item, that is Meshery test plan. Um, so let's remove this. Okay, so basically, this spreadsheet is all about giving a high-level overview of different kind of tests that Meshery is currently running or is aiming to run on any of its current workflows. Basically, this gives an overview of what should be this specific component that this test would be covering, in which platform the test would be running, then the scenario that the test is covering, and basically the action that would be performed, the expected outcome, and just general guidelines, and whether it's been currently covered in a E2E test or not. And if you're new and you don't know, like basically E2E test basically means end-to-end testing. That means we would be testing one of the complete functionality of a feature. Let's say if we want to test installation of Meshery, then we would testing whether when Meshery starts, whether it's reachable, and whether Meshery is able to boot Meshery properly, and all of its containers are coming up and stuff like that. So I'll give a quick overview of one of the E2E tests from our adapters. Um, if you Meshery, as of today, like there are different adapters for specifically for a service mesh. These adapters helps to expose different functionalities, and each adapters comes with its own features of a different service meshes. So if we discuss on Meshery Istio, um, so if you go to .github folder in workflows, you will find e2e test.yaml. So basically, the work of this specific workflow is to test whether this adapter is healthy or not. And how this would be done is, what we do is we actually run one parent workflow, which is in Meshery, and it actually takes these arguments, and these arguments are just all about assertions, which we check whether this specific the pod with this HTOD name, HTO ingress gateway, are actually coming up or not. And if they're coming up in this specific namespaces, then we actually conclude that the test passes. If it doesn't, then it means that the test fails. And that's just the overview of how the workflow run for this specific test. As you can see, currently it's failing, which is not good. And um, the reason it's failing is, we'll discuss later on the call. It's a very small bug wherein the latest workloads are not being registered by Messi server. But like that's the overview of like what E2E tests are and how they are running. So you can check out this specific file in Meshery, and there you'll find that these expected resources are being asserted in a bash script, and we are checking whether these pods are coming in these namespaces. And yeah, and we use these sample design files to actually install the service mesh, and then we also um, just test then these things. So basically what we do is, in the workflow, what we do, we start out a small Linux system, In that, we start a Meshery through Meshy Then we start up an adapter with this specific adapter in the container. And what we do is then we use the adapter to provision a service mesh through this sample design file. Then once it provisions the service mesh, then we check whether these pods are coming up. If they are, then the test passes, otherwise it's failed. And we actually tested on a number of different versions of Kubernetes. And so yeah, that's about it. And to actually have a better overview of this, you can go to the documentation. Actually, in documentation, each of the outcome of the results are actually posted here. So I'll share the link in the chat. So basically, whatever is the output of that test, whether it passes or fails, then we actually send that, we convert it into a for that Jekyll output so that it can be rendered onto this UI, because this documentation is in Jekyll. And so yeah, so if you go to this, you will find that these tests which was run in this at this timestamp for this component, this Meshery component version, that is the edge release, and basically the service mesh, and this was the version of service mesh, so it failed. And then you will see like what different components didn't come up. And if it was passing like few weeks back, you'll see that these pods were coming up fine. So yeah, this is a little bit of overview of RE2E test. And if you don't know, like if you are wondering what is edge and stable channels, so Meshery actually comes with two different release channels. One is edge, the other one is stable. So whenever we merge any PR, we make an edge release, and when we make an actual release to the release drafter, which you will find here in GitHub, this one, then it's a stable release. Basically, a version is released, while the edge is basically on each merge of PR, we make a release. So that's the difference between edge and stable. There is actually a complete um, explanation of all these things in somewhere in documentation you'll find, which is about release cycle, like releases. Yeah, I think this state. Okay. Yeah, the release process. Yes, this one. Here you'll actually get to know about all the different keywords that Meshery uses, different components, and all the secrets and every stuff which I can cover in the call. But you can go over this later after the call. So that's about the E2E test. And so that was the overview of this specific spreadsheet, like what it's doing, what are E2E test, what's the use case of this spreadsheet, and what we really want to do. So first, I would like to ask if there are any questions on the things I just discussed. Then I'll ask for any volunteers.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, I have a question. So, do we also cover some manual test?
Manualizing, like currently it's
Like
everything
before,
is automated. Okay. Yes.
before release, we must be doing CI/CD checks complete, and we must be covering some manual test also. Is that the case, or we are only doing CI/CD fully?
We are only like
Are
we
you
are only
referring to
relying.
unit?
Yes, please. I think I cut off
I'm
someone.
yeah, I'm
Yeah.
asking, are you referring to unit test?
Yeah, unit test and system test. I'm referring to. So, do we cover system test in our CI/CD pipeline also?
Specifically for adapters, no, we are just relying on our E2E test. We basically ensure that whether our adapters are healthy for the specific Meshery version, and we don't have any unit tests. I think so for adapters. We do have unit tests for Meshery server as well as Meshery CTL. So if you go to, but yeah, we don't have that for Meshery adapters, any of the adapters, as far as I remember. So if you go to this Meshery repo under .GitHub workflows, you'll find, yeah, here we actually check for Meshery CTL. There are actually a couple of tests which are written in Golang, and those actually check with the golden files where we actually have hard coded that the output desired output, and then we run that through the latest code. So that
Okay.
is how we do for Meshery CTL.
Okay.
Mhm.
What do you mean by a golden file? Is it the expected output?
Yes,
Or
actually, yeah. So if you go to server, okay, let me show. System. You go to test data. See. So if we just discuss this, so basically this test is for restart of Docker system. So whenever we run the test, this is the expected output. And if this output doesn't match with what output we get while we run the test, then it's like the test fails. So that is how we are currently doing for Meshery CTL. So I think this is what you were referring to, static test, Akshay. So
nice.
I also had a
Yes.
question for now.
yeah.
A few days ago, I reviewed a PR that was regarding uh, uh, I I do have the issue number, but just one thing I wanted to ask that most of the tests in that PR were failing because of a missing token. So in a fork in a normal like GitHub for push and pull workflow, I wanted to ask that do we like the contributors, do they receive secrets, or is there a documentation regarding that? Because if any of the secrets are required, so
Um, no, no. Actually, we don't provide any secrets. Like whenever you make any PR, the same tests which are running on the master, the same tests run on the PR as well. So we actually test before we merge any of the PRs whether the build is passing or failing. So if it fails on PR, then we won't merge. If it passes, then we merge and move forward.
okay, let me wrap my head around it. I'm
Okay.
getting a bit confused. For example, if I'm writing a test, I push it on my GitHub,
Mm-hmm.
the fork repo, the fork
Mm-hmm.
of the adapter repo, like actions will run those tests, and if those tests are failing due to a missing token, so how do I know that what I've done is actually working?
Yeah, if actually for testing, what we can do is first we can change the configuration of your test to run on a PR push whenever
Okay.
you, and that moment we can whichever token you required, we can first add it into the repo of the actual repo of Meshery. So it would be used when you would be on your created PR. So at that
Okay.
moment, we can use the secrets. So if that makes sense.
Sure.
Or you can always like generate tokens. Like I'll actually explain later on the call how you can generate tokens and use it. So you can always generate tokens quite easy. Currently
Is
we
there
have
a guide around that
Mhm.
setup? Like some written doc? I mean,
Yes,
yeah,
Mhm.
if there is like very specific, if that's something that contributors will need to do, it'd be nice to have it outlined somewhere so they can just follow the steps and
Mhm. Yes, actually it's available. I can share the link, and at the end of the call, if we have time, I'll actually demo this how we can generate tokens, and you can use it in your fork repo. So okay, so that was the overview of this. So like we already covered, like we later on, I'll actually create some issues so that we already have some issues which were assigned, but I'm not sure like we get any responses based on last time when I discussed. So anybody on the call who would like to work on this, I'll create the issues and probably link on this doc so that we can move forward with the conversation and we can get you more items to work on. Next is the second part of this test plan, which is like giving more overview of like different workflows in different repos. Let's say in Meshery we have build and release, and things like building Docker extension and UI build, like the different tests which I was just discussing in Meshery. So those are actually explained here as well. And if I can quickly go over this stable build and release. So if we go back to Meshery and you can go to .github and workflows, build and release stable. Like I just discussed what's the difference between stable and edge. So let's first discuss about what we do in the stable release. So whenever a new release of Meshery is made, we actually release create the new API docs. API is currently written in Swagger. So we run the standard make command for generating the documentation. Then we also have GraphQL documentation. And once we generate both of them, then we actually update those Jekyll based files and then commit it back to the repo. Then we build the latest code and tag it with relevant any Docker tags that we have that is for playground and stable release. And then we push it to Docker Hub. And then we build a Meshery CTL, which is one of the clients of Meshery. And once we build that, then we release it actually to our Brew. From Brew, you can actually download Meshery CTL, and we have a specific repo which automatically commits the latest changes in Meshery CTL to the main Brew repo. And then we have building of our Docker extensions. So Meshery actually also have a Docker desktop extension, which means like if you're a Docker desktop user, then you can directly install Meshery. Am I? I think I'm not sharing my complete screen. 1 second. I'll reshare so that I can show that. So hopefully my screen is visible. If you go to Docker desktop and you will go to add extension, you'll search Meshery. So you'll find the same things. Like instead of if you are not a Kubernetes user, you are a Docker user, then you can directly install Meshery with this install button, and all the latest features of Meshery can directly be used through this extensions framework. So then we also release Helm chart. So if you are a Kubernetes user, then you might use Helm chart. So we generate that and push it to meshery.io repo, the tarsi version of the charts. And then this is the specific part of the workflow which actually checks whether any of the previous jobs failed or not. If they fail, then we actually send an email to Meshery's mailing list so that it can be fixed. Any of the issues can be fixed. And if everything passes, then what we do is we roll out a new release of Playground. So that's an overview, and we can discuss a lot about it, but we have other items as well to cover. So first, I'll just quickly ask any questions on this.
I have one. Maybe I'm not sure if it's worthwhile, but you said you create some issues. If we create one of those issues live, would that help like contributors following the recording when they want to create similar issues, and then like that'll speed up the process of everyone like being able to pick up their own items like more self-sufficiently. If not, we can establish another session. It doesn't have to be right now. We could cover the agendas and then come back to that. Or
yeah, if we
set
can
something up.
first cover the agenda, then considering if we
let's
have
do that.
more time, then yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thanks for the suggestion. And okay, so that was from my side. Next is Sandra on enhancement of learning paths. So Sandra, would you like to discuss?
Hi everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. This will be generally short because after the call, I think it was last week or the week before that, however many times we have this call, continue the conversation with Lee on Slack. Just after he asked if I understood his example, which I kind of admitted that I did not, because he said that there were many different ways to accomplishing how to create a tutorial for this, and I admitted that I didn't quite understand the walkthrough that he gave. So he suggested that that perhaps giving one example for one of the learning paths and then a completed tutorial of how to implement this, that perhaps that would aid in creating some more momentum around this issue, I said yes, but then that was the last of it. And I mean, he's been pretty busy. So that's just the update that I have on that, I've been somewhat waiting for the conversation to progress from an example tutorial of how the final expectation of how the learning paths were to be integrated. So yeah.
Okay, so basically, like we want like we are looking for some guideline on how you can get started with at least the first learning part. So, so you
No,
would be like,
actually,
mhm.
sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. I was just like
No,
giving a
so
little.
the way that I understood the conversation was that he would maybe take one of the links and then create a tutorial, like the final product of how that specific learning path based on so that, because I believe that there is something that's being fixed, so we don't need to wait for that. And so there's another method of how to do it. And within that method, he suggested that perhaps a complete tutorial of how to do that. So my understanding was there would be a recording of that, and then I would just replicate it with the rest of the learning paths that are remaining.
I about this topic, I remember there was a discuss forum thread about it. Can we bring it up to
Mhm.
see where that's left? I'm not able to find it right now, but
Let me see if I can
learning.
quickly find it.
Yeah, if possible,
Mhm.
that would be helpful to see like what was the last suggestion, guideline, what to do. I remember it was about like using playground.
Yeah.
And then we covered like why didn't the URL add it to the specific site? Why it
Mhm.
didn't work? And then I think Sandra said that you said that the issue that you were having got fixed. So suddenly the left panel now had the expected service mesh you were looking for. I think it was um, Istio, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think this, if I remember correctly, Lee was
Mhm.
mentioning to instead of using the adapter, what he was saying was if you can directly use the components that we have in meshmap, so you can design
Uh-huh.
the service mesh here. So I think that
Exactly.
is, mhm. Yeah, I think we can probably continue the conversation on Slack. We don't have any much thing to discuss. So he mentioned if you just you can use this specific component and it will actually install Istio service mesh onto your Istio system namespace. Or you can use,
So
yeah.
yeah, I just sent the link in the discussion.
Mhm.
I mean, in the chat here.
Mhm.
Yes.
I see it.
Yeah.
So when you say that you'd reproduce the steps and the issue was no longer present, like can you show what you mean by that? Like can you try those steps out so we can see? Because I mean, if the idea is to create like learning path tutorials and a video for that, I mean, that sounds helpful, but is using a component the preferred way of deploying a mesh and managing its lifecycle? I mean, I'm at least by looking at the learning path, so it's working with Meshery and Istio. So yeah, I mean, when you drag and drop a component that deploys the component, and then I mean, guess that's another way of deploying it, so it's fine, right?
Mhm.
But it just yeah,
It will deploy the HTOD and HTO ingress based on
uh,
which profile we use. So
yeah, just wondering like how daunting it would be to configure it. Like maybe Pranav can like walk us through. Well, you're actually doing it right now, so that's good. So how would this get deployed?
So
First of all,
considering
Sandra, do you see the extension? I mean, what is it? The mesh map. Can you access mesh map from the
Yeah,
playground?
I have access to mesh map. I think my main issue is just creating a word for word tutorial with the script, and then because I'm not following the old katakondas, right? If I pronounce that right.
Katakoda?
I'm not following,
Yes.
yeah. So I go through the katakondas, but there's manual installation, and then there's this method. So we're using the methods that we discussed with Lee just to get the tutorial out. So I think my main issue is just creating a script around it. So right now I'm creating a script of how to navigate all the different houses or avenues or venues within Disneyland, and I've never been to Disneyland, so it's like
Exactly.
creating a tutorial for something I've never used. So not that that's an issue, because we work on many different things that we haven't used. It's just I don't know what to say in the script, because the script is to be translated by to be used by an AI, and then convert it into text to speech by AI. And so this text to speech is what I have an issue with, because I don't know what to click when and where and what to drop. I mean, I've created screenshots with Designer before, but this is something else that requires a bit more sophistication
When you
and
say
tech.
scripts with Designer, can you give us like exactly what tool are you using? Maybe I'm the only one who doesn't know what tool you're using,
So
but
screenshot, basically create a screenshot with AWS Designer. You click Mesh Map, go to the playground. There's a list of um the these what the catalogs, right? You go to the catalog, you create you create a design, or you select the pre-created design, and then it shows up in the canvas, and then you click one of the tab, design or visualize, and then you take a screenshot with in dark or light mode. So there's the catalog. If it's not
okay.
already
So you don't
in
have a
the, yeah.
problem with the AI tool you said. So you said,
No,
oh,
that's
like
gonna be done by Lee. Lee offered to do that,
okay,
because
he offered.
if I
So
were
you need
to
to
do
give
it, or
him
if another
text
contributor were to do
so
it, it
that
would
he
cost something. Yeah.
okay. Okay. So your problem, to see if I understand, is the actual how to actually deploy the service
Yeah.
mesh.
So my goal is to leave the house and go to the supermarket. I leave the door of the house, close the door, open the main gate, get into the car, drive in this direction, turn left and right, and then I'm at the supermarket, right? So same here. I go to Meshery playground, and then I do what? You know, I
If
haven't navigated this path before, so
I
I'm not
see.
sure what
so
to do.
Mhm.
if I
Okay.
could jump in a moment, the
Sure.
blessing in the case of being the first person of doing something is that you don't really have the direction, but sometimes it helps when just do what you feel is right, and then when you have something that people can go through and look at, and then they can give you the feedback, and then we can shape the way we want things to go from then on. So
Yes.
maybe what I would say is what you have, put it in a presentable format, and then come present to the team, and then they can shape which direction we can go to once you have
Yes,
something
that's right. Yeah, that's right. This is what we talked about, exactly word for word what we discussed with Lee, and then he offered if I want to say that suggested that perhaps a pre-created tutorial might make things go a bit faster. So I guess I might have misunderstood by waiting for that, because I did suggest
Like
maybe I
literally
just do
waiting
what
for something
Daniel
to.
just said. Yeah, and then see it, or if that would be a waste of some time, instead of just waiting for somebody who actually knows the clear path doing it, and then I
So
just duplicate it.
yeah. So Pranav, how long would it take you to walk us through like using the Meshery Designer and deploy, let's say Istio, like 2 minutes? Like I guess it's something that you need to see so that you have an idea of and I mean, I think it'd be educational for all of us, like to actually see how this is done. So if you go to, I don't know, mesh map, maybe,
Yeah, we can
like
do
mesh
from
map,
there, or we can do from
because
here.
the idea is that we want like a STO, let's say an STO service mesh deployed, so that we can use that URL. Like maybe we could find out like something interesting. Like so so you go to components. What is service mesh STO? Is there a category for service meshes in there? Like if you click X on the STO search,
No, actually,
how
it's
would
only available in this lifecycle page. So if here you can choose based on which adapters are available. So if you can
but we're
just
talking
click,
about deploying Istio, right?
yeah. So the adapter is used for installing Istio. So for
Okay.
installing Istio service mesh, you'll use Istio adapter. So if you just click on
Okay.
this is like it will. You don't have to design anything. Every custom configuration is already available behind this button. So if you just click on deploy, so this will automatically deploy the
Oh, version,
latest version.
missing
Yeah.
version. But I
And the
get the
fact that the
idea. So
version section doesn't list anything, because I thought that was also an issue. So I kind of, that's why I created a discussion forum regarding this. I was like, there's too many issues I'm encountering here. Perhaps just talking about it on the call will erase some of those. So there's an indication to choose a version in the Katakonda, the written one that we're trying to move from. But when you click the drop down menu here, nothing shows up. Is that fine? And then we just skip that part and then move on, or?
I see. Can you refresh the page and then click on the chip to see if that? So Istio. Okay. Can you click on versions now? Okay, something's wrong with that. Or is that expected? Maybe there's no version until
No,
you
actually, it's
deploy
kind of
one.
no, it's probably a bug.
So it's a
I'll
bug.
check that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you tried to deploy something before refreshing the screen. What happened? Like, did that deploy anything at all?
Yeah, it did deploy the system namespace. So if we just check deployments.
Okay. Can you click on the notifications to see if there's something on the right side? So there's a notifications pane, right? Oh.
Yeah.
Just to confirm it's from that. So 8 minutes ago, no, I think it was more recent, right? Like, can you scroll down? Oh, okay. Yeah, not sure these are related to that. Because they weren't designer, they were, yep, maybe those actions aren't notified at all. Wait, summary, no, yeah, they're not. At least not apparently. But anyways, so do you have that?
Yeah, so
It's still, okay, so it's there. Okay, how would a user get the URL they need to enter in the settings adapters page? Or is that not necessary anymore? I'm looking at the discuss forum issue shared by Sandra. Yeah.
actually, the link which Sandra is using is a catalog item. So for that catalog item, you don't have to go to any place. What you have to do is go to your configuration and import a design. So like first, let's just see if we have issue system. It didn't come. Just let me confirm once.
Perhaps it's
Okay,
being
so
filtered out.
maybe
Perhaps
some
it would
bugs.
be
So
more
yeah.
use for our time if we went through a demo of how we would just do this tutorial, right? So it doesn't matter which way we choose. Let's just choose one that we think of first, and then I will watch the recording and then do that, and then figure out a script for it, and then Lee can figure out the right grammar and structure wordings for it. If obviously mine would not be as technical as would be required for a project of this scale. So we just go through a demo, and then I do it just so I get an idea of where the directions are. Because if somebody tells you, oh, you just turn left and you see the building somewhere in there, then you're like,
I get
oh,
your
okay,
point, Sandra. It's
yeah.
like it's a maze. A maze with a Z. Like there's different ways of doing it. It should be very simple,
And
but
I just need
there's
one.
you
Yeah.
just need one. There's several setbacks.
So,
That missing version is confusing, and then
um, so
yeah.
like which way we have to go for, because like do we want to do it right now, or we should first cover the items on the call?
Yeah,
Either
let's
way,
move on, and then we can get back to this. Is that okay?
because we are just
Yeah,
left with
we're
15 more
running out
minutes.
of time. Yes, let's do that.
Okay, so next item is from Daniel on meshing updates. Daniel, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Okay. Okay. So I've been having we are still trying to solve performance issues where MeshSync is observing too many requests, and we want to have a way of controlling what we see and what we don't see. And as at the last meeting, just to keep everyone on board, as at the last meeting, we left it with a sample design where we're going to use a config map that is of this manner. We have items that we whitelist, items that we blacklist, and then it's going to appear in form of a tuple where we have the actual resource that we want to keep. So if it's in the whitelist, we're going to have the name of the resource and the kind of events that we want to keep. In this context, events referred to either added events, modified events, or deleted events. So the PR is in 2 bits. We have 1 bit which extends the mesh sync CRD to have a config map that we can pass this configuration to. And then the second side of the equation is where we have mesh sync read from the CRD, determine what is blacklisted, what is whitelisted, and which events, and then use that configuration in its pipeline. So the one half of the equation is done and merged. That is the mesh sync side, where we pick the CRD, we check for the events, and then we use that, and then it defaults to what we have right now in case it doesn't get any CRD in that particular case. So as we went deeper and deeper into more conversations on the same, and during the implementation phase, I realized we have two broad categories of things that are configured in MeshSync. We have configuration on what is called pipeline configurations, and pipeline configuration simply refers to the Kubernetes resources as we know them: pods, namespaces, replica sets, such kind of things. And then that is in the first case where MeshSync is actively going to look for changes on these particular resources from the Kubernetes cluster. But then we have the second mode of operation of MeshSync, where it now subscribes to a channel, and then any events that are passed to that channel, it propagates the same to the MeshSync server. On further looking down at the implementation and how the listening side of things is rather a bit hard-coded, not hard-coded as such, but it's part and parcel of MeshSync. So with discussion with Uzea, we limit at the start, we limit this configuration only to the pipeline configs. And then we'll have more discussions on how we can extend the same to the listening configs. So that was one of the key areas that was discussed. And then there was also a conversation on how do we handle when we have values that are repeating. First of all, do we handle both blacklisted items and whitelisted items? As it stands at the moment, we only support one, so it's either one or the other. So you can either supply the whitelist items, resources that you want to whitelist, or resources that you want to blacklist, and then automatically the remaining from the default configurations become what we track and such things. So maybe later on we will discuss on how to handle both situations to allow for flexibility. Also, something else that came up was now at the mesh sync level, all that we are doing is just consuming whatever we get from the CRT. But at the Meshery operator level, we can have custom logic to validate. Like, say, for example, at this stage, we cannot provide both whitelisted and blacklisted resources because mesh sync will automatically reject if we have both. So
Why?
what is remaining? Sorry? Yes?
Sorry, just why would it reject it?
Because at this point, so we if we have both, so what does having both mean? You're blacklisting some, but at the same time you're whitelisting some others. So because a whitelist essentially means take this, leave the rest, or a blacklist means don't take this, accept the rest. So the logic or the business use case, how do we define when you have both? What do we mean exactly?
You mean like they could be, or they're considered like mutually exclusive conditions?
Yes. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, as it stands now, that's how it is. But if we get a narrative on how we can handle both, then now we can extend the particular implementation to handle both cases. Yeah. So
I look at that as like whitelist would be include this and exclude the rest except the other ones, right? But I might be missing something.
okay.
I mean, that's if you're asking like, what does this mean? That's my the out of the top of my mind, but we could discuss that in discuss forums for the rest of.
Yeah, that's you see now that's a much more expressive way, and we could adopt that. So just from the product point of view, since we haven't really defined what does this and this mean, then but what you've raised up is actually a good point, that is what it could be, and we could see situations where we don't really want to look at everything or all the objects that we can observe. So because I really care about this, but then with time I realized that okay, maybe pods are really busy and chatty, so I would just I really care about this that I've whitelisted, but I don't want the pods, and then the rest I don't really care much. If you don't have, something like that.
What about the tier discovery that we discussed a while back? Maybe that's not implemented nor considered yet.
Yeah, the tiered discovery has not yet been implemented. What we just have at the moment, the kind of tiering that is there is just separation in terms of cluster-wide resources and namespace scoped resources. That's the only sort of tier that we have at the moment. But we don't have tiered resources as we had discussed in the previous meeting.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think this could be quite off topic, but I wanted to if you could shed some more light on like what exactly are whitelisted and blacklisted resources. Like this might be a very stupid question, but please if you could shed more light.
It's fine. It's fine. This is about events. So yeah, I'll let Daniel explain. I might not do a good job here, but
Okay.
go
Okay,
ahead.
just to give you a brief overview of what happens. So, of course, Meshery runs in a cluster, and we want to know what's happening in the whole cluster. So, Kubernetes is made up of resources. We have deployments, we have pods, we have replica sets, and such. So, we want to know what is happening. If we've added a pod, we want to log that event. If we've removed a pod, we've deleted one, we've added a replica set, such things. So those are events that we have. And then as it stands now, it's observing everything. It's picking up metadata on every uh, objects, whatever is happening to every Kubernetes. A lot of, okay, they are configured in the code, but a lot of them, we track what's happening to them. And also we track all kinds of events, like added events, modified events, and deleted events. Now, this is becoming too much because it's tracking a lot of information, and then it's causing a lot of CPU consumption on the Meshery server. So the goal of this is to try and reduce that footprint of what we are trying to observe. So whitelisted resources are resources that, yes, we care about them. We want to know their events. Blacklisted is like, say, we don't really want to know about these resources and such a thing. Does that help?
Let me like summarize what I understood. So like whitelist resources are like I'm trying like what I can understand is like let's have an example that I want to track resources in a certain namespace only. So I could put those resources at whitelisted resources, and I could track on the events with those resources only and not touch any other namespaces. Uh,
Yeah. Yes, you have the general idea, but what you have is very granular control. Um, at this point, we're not going as deep into particular namespaces. We're just caring about namespace as a resource.
okay.
We're not going that deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because this is done against like Kubernetes objects, right? And at the basic level, everything is an object, right? So
Yeah, sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. A resource, yeah.
Yeah. So I think with the further definition of how whitelist and blacklist are working, I can update the logic to include that. And then also the only other bit that is remaining is I want to provide a list of all the resources that you have, and then the default um, events that are there, so that we can have essentially I'm just adding that to the sample CRD. I just want to add all of them, and then now that will form a base that once we start using it, we can reduce it accordingly. So that's the only thing that is remaining as for this particular version, and then I'll do the extensions that we've talked about. So I'll
Just this
appreciate any
last point
questions.
about fingerprinting, is that something that's still being like thought about?
Yeah, so fingerprinting, similar to the way we say tired resources or tired discovery, not
Mhm.
yet there, not yet there. This is like a small band-aid to stem the
To get
problem that
something
we
up.
have right now. Yes,
Mhm.
and then
Sounds good.
we'll extend it to the fingerprints and the bigger picture that Meshery already has.
Yeah, this actually looks good. And you also got one of the updates merged. So I wonder, did we make a meshing release or it's currently pending for this Meshery operator update?
I didn't see any release as such. Yeah. So I think maybe it's pending this, and then we can do an actual release.
Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. So thanks, Daniel, for your great update on meshing. Next, we have Uzair on snapshot updates. Is Uzair on the call? I think we're missing Uzair. So next is Antoinette and Sudhanshu on fixing build fixes for system projects. So are they on the call? We're missing them. Okay, so next item is from me. We have just 1 or 2 minutes, so I can quickly go over. So what the problem was, like whenever Meshery, okay, so a little bit of context that Meshery can be used for provisioning different stuff. So whenever you provision any of the different Kubernetes resources or any of your cloud native infrastructure design through Meshery, then Meshery actually adds the annotations specifically to the specific resources which are provisioned by Meshery. And these what include is different metadata which actually relates back to mesh models, which are used for defining different infrastructure at a model level at which can be designed inside of Meshery. So this specific, let's say if we are talking about pod, then this pod actually comes from Kubernetes and have this API version. It's of kindness. It uses this logo in the UI if you're using mesh map. It is of Kubernetes model this and other metadata like category name, version, model display name, and all that stuff. So earlier it was not actually whenever we were provisioning, we were not adding the ID of the design that was used for provisioning. So if you can see this specific key in the annotation is empty. And like I just made an update in which this ID is now available. The reason why this is required is if I still have, okay, so I'll go. So I think I just closed that window. So if you go to visualizer, you'll actually see different, we were just seeing different resources were discovered in a cluster. So we actually can actually see those specific resources relate to which design, which was used for provisioning those resources. So this ID is basically the UUID of the pattern file or the design file that was used. And earlier it was not available. And after this change, it's available. The use of this would be that whenever you click on any of the resources, it will actually open the specific design which would that would use for provisioning. So the change which I done was in the design engine handler, we were not actually using the pattern ID. So the UI was not passing the pattern ID, and that was the reason in the backend we were not having it, and hence it was not being supplied to the specific construct. So this change adds that, and now whenever we provision, we would have the specific pattern design ID for the specific provision resource. This is the change. And I just have to do a couple more updates in the UI client so that this is compatible completely. Currently, it just fixes quick. I just made a quick fix for deploy, but I'll fix for undeploy and dry run as well. So yes. Any questions on this?
Looks nice.
Yep.
Mhm. And next is one more quick update from me. That is like there was a recent PR in Meshkit that actually removes couple of OAM related stuff. So before mesh models we had OAM, and okay, if you all don't know what mesh model is, then if you should definitely check out documentation. It did explained in did quite detail and also in discussion forum. So I won't be going into details. So basically, what we wanted to do is remove all the OEM related stuff. So recent PR actually removed a couple of constructs, but it actually removed this specific application construct which is currently being used in Meshery design engine. And since we removed it, so we cannot make a mesh kit release and then use the updated mesh kit in mesh server. So it's a problem. So I just reverted that change which were done in this PR. So this one. So yeah. And yeah, so this also approved. I'll just make one quick update for the lint check so that then we can merge this and make a new release of mesh kit. Any questions on this?
So basically, this was added back because it's still being used by
Yeah.
upstream
Yeah, it's currently being used
dependencies.
by yes. So this is the provision
Meshery
stage.
server.
Yeah, this is the provision stage of the pattern design pattern engine in the Meshery. Pattern engine is basically like earlier it's just called pattern because earlier Meshery was just service meshes, but it can be called design engine. So the work of engine is to deploy the designs that we were creating on the mesh map. So one of the component actually converts the design file to Kubernetes manifest, and then we generate the application configuration. So this specific function is using that structs, but we removed it. So it can like our build can be failing once we upgrade meshkit. So we have to make that change back. So yeah, so that is why it was required. Mhm.
Quick comment, like if these kind of changes lead to some release like failing, I would consider looking at some checks to add to our CI/CD. But if it was caught during a build, I mean, that's great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Actually, I was just thinking if in meshkit we should have a specific check that actually checks this latest meshkit changes with Meshery server and actually checks whether
Exactly.
this is compatible
Yep.
with Meshery. I was just thinking about it before the call.
Exactly. Great point. Yeah. So early integration, like have this as a quality check.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if the such failures like would happen during Meshery server startup, I guess it wouldn't, but it depends on how it's being used. Then as long as like running doesn't like fail, running Meshery server with this new meshkit version, that'd be fine. But else we need to look into like what kind of flow to exercise on Meshery server to get this CI job quality check like done. Yeah.
So yeah, I'll actually create an issue for this thing so that someone can take this up.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Seems very interesting.
Yep.
To implement.
A couple of tests on components that relate together or work together would be nice.
But within Meshkit, right? Itself?
Yeah, in Meshkit. So I'll create an action item for them. I'll create an issue for Meshkit compatible. I'll also create issue for
missing version.
Which missing version?
Missing version in
in Meshery UI.
Meshery UI. What was that? Life cycle.
Istio.
Yeah.
Istio life cycle.
It could be affecting all the service meshes though.
The adapters, yeah.
Yep.
And I'll also try to like create a demo record for Sander so that he can get unblocked. And I'll try to do that. Okay. Test issue. I think that's all. I'll try to get some issues based on a test plan so that newcomers can also work on them. So I think that's all the action item for me. I'll do that. Anything else important thing we should discuss before we close? I think we covered everything. Okay, so I think that's all for today. Thank you all for joining, and we'll see you on the next CI call, which is 2 weeks from today.
One more point. In an effort to not repeat the learning paths issues again in another discussion, should I be expecting to wait the conversation to continue on Slack?
Yes, actually, I'll try to create a demo recording for you so that I'll try to explain 3 different ways. One is through a catalog item, second is through the lifecycle page, and third is through Meshmap. So I'll try to get 3 recordings for you so that you can understand how to actually navigate through Meshery, and probably that can help you unblock.
Sounds more than I expected. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Welcome.
Thanks all.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you all for joining. Bye. See you on the next one.
Yeah, bye.
Bye, Pranav.
Bye for now.